What's going on, YouTube fam? Mark, last name Lyon here. Today I wanted to go over my off-season training split, kind of my focus for this off-season and what muscle groups I'm trying to bring up, and give you guys a little insight into that, as well as provide you with a chest day, more lower to mid focused, but still great workout nonetheless. So thanks for checking it out. Let's get started. Alright, so off-season split. Couple focuses here. Really wanted to hit the volume and intensity hard. Coming off of a prep, you know your workouts sometimes lack in those regions when your caloric intake is low, your energy is low, you feel like it's all spent on cardio and whatnot, any energy you do have. So for me, I really wanted to kind of attack this split, attack the muscle groups and kind of bring them up with intensity and volume. This isn't a long-term split for me, but more of just kind of a short-term burst as I add back in the calories and everything like that. Use it to my advantage, and so really use that extra energy and push the body a little hard. I've missed training this way, to be honest, so it's a lot of fun now. So with that being said, two muscle groups that I'm really working on are my back, specifically my lats and my V-taper, working on bringing those out, the lat activation. Men's physique, I think it's a really big deal. It's really important to have that, because when you turn around and hit a back pose, you're not doing a lat spread, you're not doing a back double bi, you're not doing all these different things where you're showing off your back. You're really just hitting a basic back pose. And so I think it's really important to have that really good looking V-taper and bring those lats out. And so just working on the lat activation and whatnot. And so next time I step on stage, that's not an issue for me. Secondly, more round, fuller chest. I think a lot of people can work on this. And I think too, having a good chest, if you do have one, or develop into one, can bring your physique together. I think seeing the people that have their chests kind of dialed in, can make them look 10 times as big as they actually are. It can add symmetry, and just an overall better look to your physique. And so that's something that I'm working on. Especially as somebody who I feel like has relatively decent delts and arms. It can be tough sometimes because your delts can overshadow your chest. So even if you have, a decent chest, it can make it look pretty mediocre when your delts are popping out more. So those are my two focuses for this off season. And the reason I bring that up is because so that way you understand my split a little bit more, because I am hitting chest and back twice a week each, with the rest day included. So with that being said, I'll just knock out my split real quick and give you guys kind of the simple rundown. If you have any more questions, I can go into more depth later. But so day one, back width day with biceps. Really focusing, like I said, on the lat activation there, the width, and then throwing in my biceps at the end as well. I find that it's easier for me to throw in my biceps there than on my heavy back row days and stuff, because I have less bicep wear down. So then I still have a little more juice to push them at the end. Second day, chest and with an upper to middle focused. So it's just purely chest, really focusing on that upper mantle, and trying to develop that upper chest to fill into my delts, if that makes sense. So it's just an upper to middle focused. Next after that would be legs. I love leg day, I've grown to love it. Didn't love it at first, it was more of a chore for me. But now with kind of that muscle activation, and as you start to develop the muscles throughout your legs, you'll find this as well, but it feels good to see your quads pump up the same way it does when your biceps do, or feel your hamstrings burning under the tension, stuff like that, that I don't think is developed right away maybe in most people. So legs is right there in the middle of the week, hump day, makes sense. Alright, day 4, right after legs, it's going to be my chest, lower to mid focused. Really focusing now, rather than on the upper mantle, the dip portion of it. So really trying to round out that chest and get that lower portion filled out. So on the end of that day as well, I'll throw in my triceps and knock those out. I have a little more juice than I do the first chest day, just because I just really, that first day I try to just destroy chest. So that's honestly the reason why. There's no scientific reason behind it. Day 5, so Friday, would be shoulders. And that's another reason why I include shoulders after that day, is because instead of that upper chest day and then going into shoulders, I find my front delts are a little more sore after that day than they are on the lower focused. So I'll throw in shoulders there. And then Saturday will be back thickness focus. So a lot of row movements, probably some deadlifts or rack pulls, things like that. So you could almost say I also hit back in 2 separate portions as well, kind of an upper lower focus days. So that's kind of my split now, and then I have a 7th day, Sunday, usually rest. But I like to keep it number based, just because I like the flexibility of the numbers rather than my OCD kicking in, like if it's labeled a day. If it's Monday or Tuesday, then I have a weirder time hitting that on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, type of thing. Where if it's day 2, it sounds like it can move anywhere. So that's kind of where I'm at now with my training split. And what you're about to see is one of those chest days where it's a middle to lower focused. And when I say middle, it's more of just like a neutral chest position, not necessarily a decline or incline. So nothing too special. But check it out. Let me know what you think. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. You know what to do. See you guys later. Okay, so here we have it. As I mentioned before, I'm hitting chest twice a week. So this is my middle to low chest focus. So I'll throw triceps in as well on this day. I find that the upper to middle day, my first chest day, is when I kind of go heavy with the weights and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier to throw triceps in on this day. This is a rotator cuff I start out with, just making sure my shoulders are firing and everything's warmed up properly. So I just go through this circuit 3 times, just hitting about 10 reps of each. If something feels good, I'll kind of keep working it and whatnot. But that's kind of what I do, just to make sure, shoulders are not something you want to play around with warm-up wise, and if you really want to push yourself on a chest day, your delts are going to be involved regardless. Now we try to do everything we can to make sure it's mostly your chest, but your shoulders will be involved slightly. So really just trying to make sure we warm up, and that'll be 3 sets of 10. Now the first exercise I like to start off with, it's actually one of my favorites, is the cable flies. 4 sets of about 15 here. I really like to start out with this exercise. I feel like it's a good combination of contraction, pump, really getting that mind-muscle connection going, getting the blood flow going into the chest, and I start to, pre-fatigue a little bit, but it doesn't wear you out. And so it's a good starter exercise in my opinion. I'm not a big start with press guy. I really like to kind of, like I said, get the blood flowing, get the muscles warmed up, and get that mind-muscle connection going, because I find that really helps when I go to a heavier press movement. I'm able to really focus on my chest there. And yes, I wear a long sleeve even if it's 100 degrees out. It's just a mental thing, but I like to just warm up in a long sleeve, so you'll see that pretty often. And this exercise, 4 sets of 15 reps to really just, like I said, get warm. So now the first press movement here is flat dumbbell press, 5 sets, 10 to 12. I don't really go for a set number, I really go off of feel, and I've really worked on dropping the weight down, not ego lifting, pinning my shoulder blades back, and making sure I'm really exposing and pushing through my chest. That's when you're going to find the most development. It looks cool to move the 120s and throw them around, but if you're not truly pushing through just your chest and trying to keep your delts and your triceps out of it as much as possible, you're really not going to be doing what's necessary to grow your chest and develop it. And chest is a weak point for me, and I have a feeling it's because I've always been lifting for strength and for numbers rather than really focusing on feel. So I don't go for really a set number. I really just try to go, use the weight that's appropriate. I don't go to 25s, but I kind of go based off of feel and not necessarily off of aiming for one number point. Okay, next press exercise is the decline hammer strength. So as I mentioned before, this is kind of a middle to lower focused chest day. And so really focusing on this machine contraction as well. Like I said, it looks cool to throw 3 or 4 plates on here and throw it around, but one thing I've really tried to work on is, you'll see here, pinning the shoulder blades back. Obviously my shoulders are going to come slightly forward because of the decline, but if you notice in the lower chest region, a size change, and what that shows me is those muscles are working, they're moving, they're contracting, and that's really important to me on this exercise, and really trying to develop that scoop of a chest. There's nothing that looks better than that, in my opinion. So even here, when I add a little bit more weight, it's still nothing, extremely hard. It doesn't feel like the heaviest I've ever lifted, but what it is between tempo and contraction, you can really make the weight feel as though it's heavier, as though it's harder. Adjust the tension accordingly. And as you guys saw, it's going to be a superset, so I'll walk right on over if it's available. Luckily my gym has 2 of them, and start repping out some dips, really focusing on that 90-degree angle and pushing through my lower chest to like my pec minor region rather than the triceps here. Cool. To finish off chest for today, some decline cable flies. This is another one that I really enjoy and really like, purely because of the contraction. I love the fact that the cables, I'm a huge cable guy, even some cable pressing, but huge cable guy because of, you'll see, I can get the stretch here down to the contraction, and on these I'm really aiming for my belly button. And keeping that chest up while leaning slightly forward. So I lean forward for the tension and keeping my chest up for the angle. Contracting that lower chest, really focusing on that region. Here's another example, just kind of more of a straight on. But as you see, really trying to focus on squeezing that lower region, and once I start to lose my form, I'll usually end it there. But with these cables, it's just really nice because even if it's a lighter weight, you can really focus on the tension, and that's why I give kind of a range of numbers that I'm aiming for, but not necessarily going into a set. I don't know exactly what number I'm going to hit, just based off of feel and how I'm feeling on that set specific. Okay, so now moving on to triceps. As you can see here, it's going to be a slight incline with the easy bar. Still not going necessarily as heavy as I can, but just focusing on the tension here. Similar to how the shoulders are for chest, I think elbows are really important for triceps. Well, they're important for any exercise, but keeping the tension on the muscle rather than the joint is really important here. So you'll see I don't even lock out all the way. I'm not a big fan of the locking out, and I think it just puts a lot of pressure on your elbows. So focusing on tension on the triceps here, doing some skull crushers. As you'll see, once I start to lose my form, I'll drop down. Now we're doing close grip press, keeping the elbows tight to my body, pushing through my triceps. Lastly, finishing up with one of my tricep favorites, the rope pull downs. For this, doing a drop set. As you can see, I'm leaned over. I do that because it allows for me to keep better control of my shoulders, and I don't start moving forward with it. I'm already in a stationary position. And what we're going to do here is 3 sets of, truthfully, like as many reps as possible of your regular weight, and then dropping it down, finishing it off with a lighter weight. I usually try to drop, it depends where I start, but I think it doesn't need to be half, but about 75% of that initial weight. Focusing on squeezing it out, and as you can see, start to struggle, lose your form a little bit, and that's kind of where I decide to end it out.